software and their software jobs will be lost. I don't think. Or a call center person in Nebraska who was a high school grad never thought that his job would be taken over by a graduate in India. Never would have imagined. But it's happened. And guess what? The Indian person's job will be eaten by someone else if you don't watch out. It's not, nothing is a guarantee. Right? So, anyway, I mean, it's interesting times, I would say, but times are always.
Confucius is saying, that we will be born in an interesting time.
Yeah, we are always. Yes.
How do you see the software and the piracy things here? Now you're building customized this thing, right? How do you see at the pursuit at the security software, this thing, all those aspects? How do you see? Means hacking and all that stuff. Now India is also one of the growing in hacking. So how do you see those things? Piracy especially?
Piracy, I think, is a problem. It's been a problem in the industry. I think everyone recognizes it, but everyone also loves it. What I say is the consumers love it, right? The consumers love it. That's a fact. And I frankly feel that piracy has to. You cannot legislate against piracy. You can, but you will not be very effective. It will have some impact, but it's not going to have long-term impact. The only long-term impact is you can cause fundamental change only when something is so cheap that it doesn't make sense to fight it. Right? That's the only long-term solution. So, and it will get there. I mean, today you have, I don't know how many of you have read, there's a book called Free. Of course, the book is not free, but but I think the internet version is.
That's where they also went wrong.
No, I think they have an internet version that is free, but you have to buy the hardbound thing. So the concept is there are today so many free services that are supported by advertising, by all the other unconventional means. So piracy, while it is a problem, I think it will. I mean, Microsoft can make a big hue and cry. There's a lot of stuff which is going on, but let's admit it. Net, if that software is useful and 100,000 people are using it illegally, you can be sure sooner or later, at some point, when it becomes affordable, they will take it on. So you are improving your penetration in the marketplace. You're not making the revenue, but same thing with recording. I mean, music is a big industry at the crossroads because they're not willing to accept that people don't want to pay this huge amount for the popularity of iTunes and all that, which you see, which is a buck for a song. So piracy, that's the only solution at a consumer level. But obviously, intellectual property is going to become. We are moving to a knowledge economy. It's not going to be anymore. So knowledge is going to be important. And we are already there. Knowledge is going to become important. So intellectual property protection, not piracy, protection of ideas, protection of these great breakthrough things that we come up with, will become sacrosanct. Because that is the only weapon in the next era. You cannot manage by physical might, you cannot manage by economic might. You have to manage through this. Knowledge will become important. And to that extent, protection of knowledge will become a lot. Today, the biggest thing you'll see, for example, those of you who follow Google and Amazon, what do you think is the biggest asset that Google has? No, they have the customer. See, they produce a great search engine, and everyone uses it, and all that is great. But what they have is phenomenal amount of data, terabytes and terabytes of data, which they gather every day on how users use the internet. So they know exactly someone who visits here will typically visit here, And they can do things with that data which no one else can. No one else has the data. So they have an edge which doesn't matter who comes up with the next big search engine, they don't have this data. So that is their competitive advantage. That's what an Amazon can do. That's what a Google can do. Those of you who are interested should read a book called The Long Tail. Okay.
Sundarat, I may ask you just over here. See, in this same instance, when you say that Americans would throw capital towards finding a solution, whereas we would throw people, it was looking at Google and Bing. Bing came what? Maybe a year back, maybe less than a year back, and at least from what I was getting to see, it's nowhere close to what Google, the kind of Google franchise. Now, obviously Bing doesn't have the kind of database that Google has. So however much capital Bill Gates or Bob Allen would like to throw at it, it's not going to stick, will it?
It will, see, the interesting thing, for example, you see this thing about waves, meaning, for example, you see the first word processing software that came out. The first word processing software that came out was a company called,
Take spreadsheet, I'll tell you.
a spreadsheet is SuperCalc. This one was Word something.
WordStar was there.
No, Word Pro, I think. Word Perfect. Huh?
Word perfect?
Word Perfect was the next.
Next one.
The first was a company that produced word processing was, I forget the name exactly. Well, okay. Next was Word Perfect. After that came MS Word. Okay. So MS Word was the third generation in that one. Okay. And similarly in spreadsheets, I mean, you had SuperCalc, you had Lotus, then Excel. Okay. So the big play, I mean, if you take the stuff, it is Yahoo, Google. Okay, time for a third. There could be a play. Okay. So because what happens is whatever was, so that's why to sustain, what you said is very right. It's the sustainable advantage that Google has is so strong that it's difficult to penetrate. But the third wave of something does have, becomes the lasting place. So, if you talk to some of the large venture firms in the U.S., like the Kleiner Perkins, and these are big firms, and you talk to them, they will say, "Hey, we back ideas that can change the world." Okay, so they don't mind putting a lot of money behind it, as long as the market is large. Because the market to displace a Google, the winnings can be enormous. Okay, if you can displace Google, it's a big if, but so you will find capital pouring into. See, it's two things: it's innovation and capital. Both of those things have to go hand in hand. So, if the market is big, you will find capital flowing. So they will. I mean, Bing may not quite make it, but
I have two further questions. One is related to innovation in the US and the reasons for innovations out there. The second one is about products in the IT space in India. The first question is, US market has been innovating for more than a century. When I started looking after my book got published, I made a promise that I'm going to write about innovation in India. And this sort of Shomil Sengupta challenge as a boss is not going to happen. He spent a year and come and talk to me about it. A year later, he said that, I told him honestly, that this I found small thing, but earth-shattering invention is why don't we have that in India? That's the question. Why don't we have that?
See, it's a very simple thing. I can tell you this just purely from our own experience. Early days, when we started a company, IT industry was nascent. We were just starting up in software. At that time, I can say there was no industry, no Indian industry, which was global, which even thought global. No Indian industry. So we had zero role models. When we said we're going to the US, we're going to go to UK, who was the role model for us? No one.
Your own ambitions.
Yeah, our own ambition. So, what knowledge did we have about the US market? Or, this is what happens there, or this is how you build a global company. Nothing. No role models. So you learn by actually going there, by doing it. Okay. So you learn. Now, coming back to your question, I believe that as long as the Indian economy keeps growing, okay, you will not have great innovation happening in India. Yeah. So when people are trying to tackle new markets, I expect insurance, for example, a favorite topic of mine, because the biggest biggest breakthrough you can have in India is when you can hit the rural masses. Okay. And when you can afford service, like Bharti has done, that is innovation to me, to be able to bring it down to that per unit cost. Yeah. So when you can do that, then you will, and I'm saying you will see more of that in those kinds of industries who are trying to tackle those kinds of problems. Because one of the things for innovation, I mean, frankly, in US, the venture system is very strong. When I said Silicon Valley has a whole energy to it, which is very different. Why? Why does it have that? Why can't there be another Silicon Valley elsewhere? It's very difficult because the Silicon Valley has two top schools, Stanford and Berkeley, in that area. It has the three largest chip companies, Intel, AMD, National, all there, headquartered there. It has eBay, Google, started there. Database companies, Ingress, Oracle, all started there. So,
and also the highest concentration of Nobel Prize winners
in that area. HP, you name it, HP is right there. You look at Cisco, networking, you want to see networking, who are the leaders? Cisco, right there. Okay, all of that happened right in the valley because there is a great nexus between all of these things. So you can, let's say you are a management graduate, you have this great idea, write up your business plan. You will know someone who will put you in touch with the leading researcher in Intel, or the leading guy in this one, or the leading guy somewhere else, and you can go meet over a cup of coffee. And you can get access to see the latest things happening in all of these companies, large companies. And the academics, and it's a very, very, it's a kind of what I would say, a convergence of academic talent, industry, and most important, venture, money available. So if you have an idea, you can go. That's why Google can start in the valley. It cannot start anywhere else. And there is one particular building in the Silicon Valley where all the companies that have started their offices there have been very successful. So that building is in great demand. And Google also, by the way, started there.
So, what is the fundamental difference that you see in entrepreneurs starting at your time in the 80s and today? What fundamental difference?
I think it is, we were protected when we started. You didn't have to take on the world right from the get-go. Today, you will have to take on the world from the get-go. When we started, it was not a capital gain. You could manage with savings and take it up. Today, the people you are competing with will be going with capital. So the game is tougher now, in some sense, than it was there. But I'm sure that there are pockets even today which we can beat from. But money is needed a little bit more today than it was when we started. But I can tell you this, that one of the myths, even when we started, most of the people felt that we needed money to start, and actually frankly we didn't. Okay. So we our share capital in the early days was 400 rupees. Actually, that's what we started. So it is tougher now. So because people are there are more people. If entrepreneurship becomes more acceptable, what's going to happen? There will be more entrepreneurs. Okay. So there will be more competition than possibly what we had. But the markets are larger, the opportunities are much more. So it kind of balances out. So I don't think it is very tough now. It's a great time. I mean, entrepreneurship, in fact, right now, India is a great place to start a lot of money.
In 7K, Ramanathan started 7K with 50,000 plus a borrowed money. Now is 1,000.
Unless you're getting into manufacturing or distribution, which is capital. Capital. And even IT services, I can say today it's no longer possible to do it without capital. At our time, it was possible to do it without capital because we used to do all projects at customer sites. So all our people used to work when we got a project at Levers, they were all sitting at Levers and working. So we had no office space at all. And we had just one tiny cabin and we would do it. Today, I don't think you can quite do it that way.
My second question was about my perception, and maybe wrong, but my perception is that the IT industry in India is great about services, but I don't see products coming out.
It will products. Products is a very, in fact, I'm very passionate about products, and for India to, it's like the same thing that I talked about in terms of growth, because when you're generally having growth, it's very difficult to innovate and be competitive. I'm not saying you will not, but it's a little difficult. Similarly, when you make today, the biggest challenge for the Indian industry is in services business. If you see the amount of profits all companies are making is obscene. I mean, 30% net. It's unheard of. When you can be so profitable doing services, why would you do product? That's kind of the thing. So, so even product guys will say, no, let's do services. Assured, no risk, we make this much money.
Within the largest ones in the world, United States are all product companies.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Yeah. See, it's a little different in the sense that when you look at the world as a market, and you look at not large companies, but you look at, see, Microsoft succeeded because of what I call a bottom-up movement. They captured the desktop. They didn't really capture the enterprise. They captured the desktop and worked their way. Even today, they're not very great at the enterprise level. So they captured it from the desktop. And I think we, as an Indian industry, Indian IT industry, are more comfortable selling to the Fortune 500, larger companies. We don't look at consumer as a market. Not even consumer, I mean even the small medium business has a. So since we don't even go there, why? Because here it is profitable.
Yeah, well, so there's say for example, I mean one standout product, and there have been quite a few, there is FlexQ. It's not part of the big stables. Tabby, our business Tabby.
Yeah.
That is classical, SME you're talking about.
I was telling the class, I don't know whether you were there at that time, we had a pre-runner to Tabby, which was over 1,000 installations, well before, and in some sense I would say, the gentleman who started Tabby, I forget his name, his thing was, he used to come in, we inspired him in some ways to believe in the product market in India. We were well before that time. We had 1,000 installations of that accounting product. Okay. So, product mindset, we just don't have, it's a different animal, which the IT industry doesn't have. What I mean by that is that even if you take FlexCube and all that, and I've spoken to some of those people there, they're very clear. They didn't come with a product mindset. See, it is like they came in saying that, hey, I know to build software, So I should be able to build the product. That's the way we approach it in India. Okay? If I know to build software, I'm good at building software, so let me build a product. But building a product is one of the most relevant things in the whole game. When you have to be in the product game, building the product is the least of, it's an important component, but it's almost
Not
irrelevant.
critical.
It's not very critical. It is knowing the market, the discipline of, I learned the discipline of product marketing, product thinking, if you will, in the US, clearly. Because that market rigor is just absent. We are still operating in the age-old mode of, if you build it, they will come kind of thing. You must have heard that in your books, right? If you build it, they will come. That doesn't work. Yes, we can build software. Doesn't mean we know how to come at it from a market. And that is a discipline we are lacking. We'll get there. I believe that India is today a low-cost place to build products, but it's not a high capability. We'll get there, but we are not quite there yet. So that discipline has to come in, and part of that will happen when people start coming back, who build products, who have that thinking. So what is the great thing? In each of these things is knowing your market, positioning yourself, and then going for the kill. And building the product is one important aspect in that, but not only.
You still have to have a soap which works.
Yeah.
But just having a soap which works is not
That's not good.
So the recovery after the recession has been a debt-driven recovery. So now what do you see the future prospects? Do you think this year would be a tough year? And secondly, the Satyam fiasco, were you shocked that a company who received an award a year previous to that from Ernst & Young for corporate governance had made such a big blunder?
I think the Satyam thing, I think it forget about the IT industry. I think it caught Indian industry by surprise. And if that gentleman was in the US, I would definitely say that kind of ridiculous stuff that's happening. I can't even imagine a CEO writing the kind of letter that he wrote. So I think that was a shock, and definitely sullied the image of IT industry as such, because I think the IT industry is by and large very clean professionals, more professional led than many other industries. But the most shameful episode, unfortunately, has happened in the IT industry, and we've got to live up to that. So obviously that was a major fiasco. And as far as getting awards, I think awards are worse. Nothing against awards. I think they're great, but so awards getting it wrong is not okay.
Sir, can you share some of your learning that you had from US market? You said earlier that you had got some great knowledge from the US market.
Learnings from US market.
Yes. Just say.
Okay. Learnings from the US market, meaning it's you've got to live there, you've got to see how people think. I keep telling, if anyone of you wants to start a company, you're looking at starting an enterprise, I tried to do that in the US. Had to go out and raise money. Like I said, I raised $20 million, which blew up in record time. But raising $20 million was a big thing. I learned a lot. You had to go in. So you've got to convince someone with nothing that they've got to put in 20 million into your idea. Right? How do you do that? How do you do that? That means your idea has got to be able to be communicated in that crisp fashion. So you learn, and I can tell you, these people, like when I keep saying that the US has done this for hundreds of years, That is true. So if you say how to raise money, there are 50 things available. So how to raise money, how to write this, how to do something. Okay. And then you can go, and because it is a value, you can go and ask your friend and say, hey, tell me, how did you raise money? What are the 5 most important things? And you've got to do that. And so my advice to a lot of people who want to start on their own is absolutely go and raise money. Because that will teach you about your business in such a short way. Because if you cannot articulate what the value proposition of your business is to someone who's willing to invest in you, how are you going to get customers? Okay. So do that. So, I mean, if you say learning, it's things like that. Now that is a learning. The importance of, market-led thing. It's not that I can build the product. It is, what does the market want? That's what the investor wants to know. What is the hot thing happening in the market? If you say internet is the hot thing, he says, yeah, that I know. So which part of the market is moving? Why do you think it's moving? And why do you see there is an opportunity? You've got to be able to state that. You've got to be able to see it, you've got to be able to state it, and you've got to be able to articulate it. And most important, let's say, even though startups look very glamorous, the statistics of failure rates are very high. 90% of them fail. So, getting it right, getting that discipline, I can say this definitely, that after going to management school, after starting and doing it all in India for about 10 odd years, and then I go to the US, I found myself learning a hell of a lot more. And some of the concepts which marketing, I feel I think this is true the world over. Marketing is something everyone believes they can do. Everyone. You meet someone and say, marketing, oh yeah, I know. I know. I can do it. You say, can you be a doctor? No, I don't know. But marketing, I can. Okay. And I think in India, marketing is practiced very well by consumer companies. They are very good at it. But if I take the IT industry, marketing is horrendous. Marketing we don't understand. So learning the discipline of marketing, what it means to the IT business, I learned over there. I honestly say that. Because you have to practice it. You will die by it. That is the difference. See, when I raised the $20 million and started this e-commerce company, we had to hit certain things. And you did it by reducing cost of sale. It's a level of discipline that you get to, which is remarkable. We didn't do a great job. The company didn't take off and do a great thing. But like I say, in life there are only 2 things. Either it's a learning experience or success. I'd rather take success, but if you don't have success, at least you take the learning experience. So you do learn a lot. And it's not, those opportunities are available today in India. I think I've seen some remarkable social entrepreneurship movements in India and inner parts. People are doing remarkable stuff. I think it's a human imagination and creativity. There is no boundary to it. So it happens. Good stuff happens everywhere.
I think there may be a cultural issue in the sense that in the US, people going out on their own, doing their own thing is encouraged. In India,
It is not. It is not. And failure is accepted. And there I met, in the valley, I met a lot of people who will say, oh yeah, I started to fail. I'm thinking of the third one. In India, I think maximum people would do one, and if it goes bad, that's it. They are not going to touch it again. So that is a stigma which we have to, but it will happen. Like I was saying, when we started, even entrepreneurship was not accepted. Today that is accepted. So we get you.
Sundar, if you start with an entrepreneurial project kind of thing, thereafter does it require some change in thinking as for the
As the company goes,
Is the entrepreneur able to do that?
No.
Or venture capitalists approach for management appointment or some such things? What is your view on this?
That's a very good question, and I think it is something that you've got to be very practical about. Like I said, different breakpoints in a company, and it requires different management and all of that. And not all entrepreneurs can, make that, can even make that transition. Because the skill, what was so great in stage 1 of the company is not the greatest skill in stage 3. You don't need that. In fact, this can kill the company. So, absolutely, you've got to, as people who start the company, we've got to be very conscious of what our roles and pluses and minuses are. So just because we started it doesn't mean we are the best people to run it when it is a 500 million company or a 200 million.
At some point in time, the entrepreneurs actually can be the people who kill that company because they don't know how to get it.
Absolutely. You have only 2 choices. In fact, some of these gates, if you don't make the transition as an entrepreneur, you've got to either have the good sense to leave and let the company be run by someone else. Okay? Otherwise, you will kill the company. So it's a very, very real problem. And I think something which I would say Indian industry has not yet faced. No, not faced. Not even accepted. It's a question of that. In India still it is taken as personal property. If it is your company, it's your company. Yeah, it is your company, but you're a public company. Then it's, yes, you own a significant stake in that company. But just because you are the owner doesn't mean that you get to run the company forever. Okay. In US, people walk away at different stages from the company. But I personally, this is again my personal view, that I believe that while the entrepreneur may not be the right person to run the company in stage 2, 3, 4, the entrepreneur is moving away early from a company also causes death. Because the biggest strength that I believe the entrepreneur brings in, or the founders bring in, is the passion and the commitment to the business, which you cannot get in a professional person. So the best is to blend both. It is not an either-or situation. It is, if you see Microsoft, I believe that Microsoft is great today because Bill Gates is still associated. And he's very committed to it, he's very passionate about it. Same thing about Google. If you remove those people, Microsoft would not be as great as it is today.
We saw it with Apple, right?
Yeah. Steve Jobs coming back in makes a difference. So, so you cannot, just because you are a great innovator and you are great at something, you cannot assume that that is, you are great at running the company as well. So you've got to fashion the role for yourself, which is in line with what strengths you have. And that is, you should have the maturity to say that, oh yeah, I'll be the number 10 person in the company. Doesn't matter. So would your ego allow that? And if it doesn't, then the company doesn't grow. Or you don't. So it's a very, very, I think industry is coming to grips with that, but it's early days.
I've seen that in the IT industry, the only observation, only example of this ability to let go, become number 10, for instance, is FC Kohli, GCS.
Yeah. 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 You're right. Yeah. Because you have to let go, otherwise, see, even FC Kohli, all said and done, he had a long stint.
Very long stint.
Very long stint. Okay. I really don't know whether such a long stint is even desirable. Okay. It's good. I'm saying today, you cannot think of Reliance without the Ambanis running it. The Ambani need to be associated with it, but I'm not so sure they should be running it all the time. That's the only, I'm saying the role. Involvement, I still believe that a Reliance will be better off with an Ambani being associated with it.
But if you look at the Reliance industry, some part of it is familiar with. That Mukesh Ambani is very much we have. The petroleum and petrochemicals business is run by Meswai, family cousins.
Yeah.
The petrochemicals plastics business is run by Nanavati, who is actually an employee they acquired when they bought over IPCL. Right, so somewhere along the line, that sense of delegation has to happen.
See, in scale, you cannot do everything yourself. I mean, different people have a different style. But you're right. I mean, absolutely. You can't do. One of the things I think is a myth is you can only do so much as an individual unless you get working.
My point about Nanavati is he's not part of the family.
Right.
He's an employee who was acquired when they acquired another company.
Yeah.
But he's not part of the family. There's no cousin.
There's no cousin.
There's no relation. That's it.
See, the thing I have seen, I can tell you, I've seen a lot of great companies in Silicon Valley which have gone down the queue when
Such demand.
yeah. They have just done, see, sometimes you just do it because it's the right thing to say, oh yeah, this company is now reached this stage, so let's get rid of the founders, let's bring in professional management. Company dies. Just dies. And that's happened enough times. Just like the other way is also true. I mean, the reason why they start using this formula is because they've done it the other way. They've seen founders killing the company so many times that they have kept this as the formula. But I mean, exceptions to the rule kind of thing. So you're right. I mean, it is an important aspect of scaling. Like I was saying, our own example, because you were innovating too much, you are not capitalizing on what you've innovated and taken it to the head. So we should have been a much larger company than what we are today. That's no two things about it. And that is part of the entrepreneurial project.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think we can keep talking.
Yes.
This is a long. Thank you all. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much.